You're listening to Spotlight, the podcast that fosters connections with veterans and military spouses. Here's your host, Bob Louthen.
Hey everybody, this is your host, Bob Louthen, founder of the VeteranCrowd Network, the network that brings veterans and veteran-led businesses together with each other and the resources they need to prosper. And you are tuning into the Spotlight. Very pleased today to have Dave Gillespie as my guest. He's down in the Tidewater area of Virginia. He is a Coastie, the first Coast Guard veteran I've had, I think, on the podcast. So I'm going to learn a lot about the Coast Guard today. He's also the founder of the Virginia, what do you call it? The Virginia Technical
Academy.
Virginia Technical Academy. Dave, welcome to the Spotlight. Thank you for being my guest today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Bob.
Hey, let's jump right in. Tell us what you're doing. Tell us about this academy and your current passion, the new mission for Dave Gillespie.
My new mission, and like we talked earlier, is trying to educate people, getting them into the trade. So I actually opened this up 5 years ago. I started working out of a garage. I mean, literally a garage. I own Blue Crab Appliance parts. And what I did was take the front section of 900 square feet, move all the parts, and hold homeowner classes to start off with. Then I said, wow, this is becoming good. People, a lot of interest. Then I got into a garage, and we pulled the big door up every night, and I would teach in the evenings and on weekends. Then a lot of people still wanted to come in and learn. So I was teaching heating, air conditioning, electricians, appliance repair, and it grew from there over a 5-year period. This year, March 16th, we actually was going to have our grand opening to our new facility, 20,000 square feet. March 13th, the governor shut me down for 6 months. We went from March and we didn't reopen back up until September. So that was a long shutdown. I had 11 instructors. Some are veterans and some of them are tradesmen that have come in with master's degrees and stuff. So we rewrote the entire course and curriculum for all the classes that we're offering now and put it online. We zoomed in for candidates that wanted to learn. We opened back up September to do our hands-on training and testing to see if they actually learn anything from Zoom's meetings. So out of 110 people that we got into the school in September, 99 of them upon graduation in December, we got employment for. That is probably the best odds of anybody getting a job. We had over 60 contractors asking to come and do interviews to hire every candidate that was in our school. And the only reason the other ones didn't get it because they didn't finish the courses.
So this is interesting, in a day and age when people are borrowing money to go to liberal arts colleges and coming out with degrees and having a hard time finding a good paying job. What kinds of opportunities exist for the people that are in the trades? It's a real interesting discussion.
So is there an opportunity? Yes. Because that trade is not just for a job. That's something they'll take with them the rest of their life. Just like myself as a young buck, when I was doing my first 4 years in the Coast Guard, become an electrician. Once you've learned that trade, it's a trade you take with you. If you buy a house or you're just doing it as a hobby to go out and help people or doing stuff. So it's not just a trade to get a job, but it will pay and provide funding for your family and stuff. We're working with the veterans right now to try to get the school certified for GI Bill to be able to get people come in here. But with the success story of our first opening and all the students, this is, to me, is the place to come.
You're in the Newport News area. There's something like 15,000 service members rolling off every year, coming off of active duty in the Tidewater area. Do you expect that'll be a big pool of candidates for you?
I hope it'd be a exceptionally big pool. And right now, because of we offer something, everybody talks about performance. They do hands-on training. I've spent a lot of money to put the exact equipment that we're teaching on that they're going to go out and work on. We have our lab set up with 220 volt air conditioning systems. We have panel boxes. They have to wire a house on the plywood and on the boards and do all the drilling. So they actually get the hands-on training. Over 50% of the entire courses, actually, you have to do a performance. It's not just PowerPoints and taking a test to just see if you gain some knowledge on a PowerPoint or a book. It's about, at the end of the day, we hold a higher percentage for the actual performance side.
Dave, let's drill down on that. So let's go back and take a little walk down memory lane here. Tell me about young Dave Gillespie deciding that he wants to go into the United States Coast Guard. How the heck did that happen? When did it happen?
Okay, short story. I graduated from high school at 16 years old. Not that I was really smart, I just didn't like school. So I just went to summer school every year and everything. Well, my folks said, "You're 16 years old. What are you going to do?" Well, my dad was in the Coast Guard. My brother was in the Coast Guard. Guess what? I'm turning 17 August the 6th, 1976. August the 9th, I already had my plane ticket and my, we called it back in that day, AWOL bag. They had packed it for me, said at the door, says, "Enjoy your birthday tonight, because at 5 a.m. you're leaving, going to boot camp."
Sounds like the family business a little bit, doesn't it?
What's that?
It sounded like it was the family business in the Gillespie household.
Well, when my dad was in it, and then my brother went into it, he went to be a mechanic. My dad was a yeoman, and I was interested in being an electrician. So we had the first, really a true family business. And then we all went off in different parts of the United States. And, well, we got married, we settled down somewhere else, and we never pulled back in because we wasn't all at the same house at the same time.
Tell me a little bit about the Coast Guard. You know, you know, a lot of us are veterans, but we don't know a lot about the Coast Guard. We hear a little, everybody knows, call the Coast Guard when they got a sinking fishing boat, you know,
Yes.
that sort of thing. But talk a little bit about what you did, where you were deployed.
Well, my first tour, I was on a buoy tender out of Agana, Guam. I was just a deckhand, then went engineering, and then went to EM school up in New York. After that, I worked on all the Coast Guard vessels when I was in St. Louis. I was on a base there, and river tenders all up and down different states. We would drive to meet them along the banks, and I started learning to become an electrician. The Coast Guard, I have a very colorful Coast Guard career because I went from buoy tenders, DC propulsion systems, to 270-foot cutters, doing law enforcement. And I was doing law enforcement as a boarding officer on 95-footers. Then I went to a strike team, National Strike Team, which a lot of people don't understand. The National Strike Team, I was on the Gulf team. We actually responded to train derailments, pesticide warehouse fires. We would go out and survey the top super sites that need to have chemical cleanups.
I never knew that the Coast Guard touched any of that stuff.
When I got really, when I was on the strike team, because we went into a lot of different areas, because wherever there's something like that could go into the navigable waters, right, the Coast Guard would get called out. It wasn't just the oil spills on the in the Gulf or oil spills, but we went on a lot of oil spills too. Don't get me wrong.
I've been to places up in the backwoods of West Virginia, you know, off the Monongahela River and places like that. It's amazing. You can literally navigate all the way from these rivers up and they seem to be in the mountains of West Virginia all the way to the Gulf of Mexico.
We had a team when I was on the strike team. I didn't get to go up to it, but you talk about West Virginia, a lot of the abandoned oil rigs that they had there for pulling oil out.
Right.
We had to go up through the mountains with the EPA, because we work with the EPA a lot, and do surveys on them for the pollution that is being created going out to identify it all. So the Coast Guard is involved with a whole lot of stuff, of drug interdiction to law enforcement, as customs agencies, to chemical spills.
You got out of the Coast Guard before 9/11 happened, probably, but now that it's part of Homeland Security, has there been a significant change in the way the Coast Guard works, or is it just, no good deed goes unpunished, so they gave you more stuff to do?
Well, you say that after 9/11, because I did. I retired first time in 1996, 20 years. I was actually in
Right.
charge of the A school.
You got called back in though, now that I think about it.
Yeah, and a good friend of mine, we go back 35 years. Those are the ones who are going to call you back. It's not going to be the just the government. He called me up. He was Lieutenant Marino at the time. He was a senior chief electrician.
Mhm.
We were stationed together in Yorktown, and he called me up and he said, "Dave, I hear you'll come back in the Coast Guard." Well, I was looking for that desk job. I ain't gonna lie, I was gonna go back and teach at EM school, and I would go back in. Well, he said, I talked to the detailer, and I'd already told the detailer I'd come back in. I volunteered before they actually started doing a lot of the recalls. So he calls me up on a Thursday, I think it was. And he says, I'm going to be the new EO on the Coast Guard Cutter Bear out of Portsmouth. Need a chief electrician. And I already talked to the detailer, and I said, Charlie, when are you getting underway? Saturday. I've been out for 8 years. 8 years I was out. So I said, okay, I need to go talk to Mama.
You had 48 hours to before they were shipping out.
And I said, I don't know, Charlie. He goes, I don't mean this Saturday. I'll give you a week. I'll give you an extra the following Saturday. I said, okay, let me go talk. I'll give you a call tomorrow. I said, I don't think you can get me back in within a week. Government does not work that fast. He says, let me worry about it. So I called him on Friday. He said, let me worry about it. Tuesday morning, I was at the Coast Guard base getting my physical done. I got a clean bill of health by Thursday. Ready, and I was back in active duty on Saturday.
You show up, you should be the grizzled old veteran, but you got all the new uniforms, look like you just came out of boot camp.
And they did. They issued all new sea bag, new uniforms, everything. And that was an experience. And the funny part was I was on the commissioning team of the Coast Guard Cutter Bear when it first came out 20 years ago. And now to retire off of it 20 years later, because my second retirement was on the Coast Guard Cutter Bear.
What did the Bear do after 9/11?
We did law enforcement, drug interdiction through the Caribbean islands. I've traveled every island except one, Bermuda. So I've got to get to know that real well. You ask about a difference. That was a culture shock to me. After 20 years of active duty and retiring in 96, 8 years out, and then going back to sea. Don't get me wrong. I love going on ships. You used to unplug the umbilical cord, the phones are done, internet's gone, everything's ready to go. You get underway, and the only thing you focus on is your job. That's the way it used to be. When I went back in, you can unplug those things. They got 24/7 connectivity. They have everybody's coming in as a command chief. Hey, chief, I need to go home. I got problems at home. I got my house got flooded pipe. I got this and I got that. And I'm like, where are you getting this information? Oh, chief, we got 24 connectivity. I've been emailing my wife every day and talking to her. Really? It was all new to me. So I had a young ensign caught me in the passageway coming out of the chief's mess one day. He goes, Chief, did you get my email? Excuse me? He goes, I said, was it important? He goes, absolutely, Chief. I needed to get this information. I said, let me ask you a question. How large is this vessel? He goes, you're joking, right? I said, no, just humor me for a minute. 270 feet, Chief. And if it's important, you're going to send me an email while we're underway? You can't come find me? It must not have been that important. I was
It's like like sending a FedEx package to somebody in the office down the hallway.
And
This
that's
goes
what
by way of Memphis, you know?
our society has gone to that. Even underway, you're emailing back and forth to each other, and you're on the ship. Let's get together. It's 270 feet. So the captain had a few words for me at the same time, because as the command chief, I didn't pull out that laptop. I got engines and switchboards, and I'm teaching the electricians. He called me up to the cabin and says, Chief,
Got to be checking your email.
can you do me a favor? I'm getting your emails, and they've asked me to ask you to get back on the internet here so you can answer. So
You're old school, man.
well, I'm gonna tell you, there's a lot to say about old school. Charlie and I, because we had history, so everybody knew we had history. And we've gone back, and we went through the Coast Guard and came up the ranks. We had the same old people that was his mentors and my mentors. And he actually went after enlisted, he went to the officer. He's a commander when he retired, and off the Bear also. So we talk about I lost track of where I'm going.
No, we're just talking about old school and how
the old school
pages and emails and all kinds of stuff.
Charlie allowed me to have a lot of leeway of being old school on the ship. Now, we did things to get the job done. I don't care. You stayed here until 2 o'clock in the morning. We didn't give early liberty at 1 o'clock like they now. So we played a little old school on this. Well, it must have worked. 10 years later, we're still meeting with the engineering crew every year at Christmas time. They fly in from Florida, Michigan, one came from California, and we still get together after 10 years of being on that ship together. Mm-hmm. You show me ships that get together like that do it just because you want to get back with your fellow shipmates. Most people, they sort of wander off. In my first 20 years, we didn't have as much camaraderie, but for some reason we had that camaraderie on the ship. And we worked hard, we played hard, and most of the people got their first choices when they left the ship, if they did a good job. And I'd go to headquarters for him as the command chief. Let's sort through. Here's his list. What can I work out for this person? Here's his marks. Here's what he's done. Here's what kind of job he did. So as a command chief, Charlie and I went up to Washington to look out for our people. Mm-hmm. And one short story, because of old school aspect, I don't want to take up too much time. I was on the ship maybe a month, maybe 2 months. And the electricians in my shop came up to me and said, Chief, can we see you for a minute? And I brought all of them into the chief's mess. And this is going back to old school aspect. They handed me a bunch of chits. I'm looking at the chits. And I said, I want to get out of the Coast Guard. Can I leave this ship? I'm tired of it. I'd like to be transferred. Chief, I don't care where I go, but this ship, I just don't feel I've learned anything on it. I hadn't been there that long. So I'm going through all these requests to get off the ship, get transferred, get out of the Coast Guard. And I took the chits, folded them over and threw them in the trash can. Young third class steps up in front of them all, says, Chief, you don't have that authority. I said, excuse me? He goes, if you look on that chit, it says you have a recommendation. You don't have authority. The captain is the only one on this ship that has the authority to put a disapproval on any of those. I reached back down the trash can, picked them back up, looked at it and said, you're absolutely correct. Right here, it says recommendation for me when I sign it, captain approved, disapproved. You're absolutely right. I appreciate you bringing that up to my attention. And I turned around, folded them up and ripped them up in little pieces, threw them in the trash can. And I said, now get out of my chief's mess. And by the way, tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, I'll be at the Exo's complaint request mess. I'm the command chief. Have a nice day. And that's the crew that we still get together with. They stayed on board. They all advanced now to senior chief. Some went lieutenant. some are chiefs, and everybody has gotten their choices and they have made it a career because I played it by old school and didn't give in to, oh, we got to do it this way. This is new touchy feely. Didn't do anything wrong. I just wasn't giving in to every little
I think you
request.
did it. I think you did a lot of things right. Hey, Dave, let's do something. I told you I was going to do a lightning round with
Okay.
you. All right. So here we go. And you're going to hear this sound after each quick question. All right. So just respond quickly as you can, but you'll hear this sound. Oh, you know what? I got to make it work. Let's see if I can do this. There you go. Did you hear that?
I heard it.
Okay. All right. First question is, if you had not gone into the Coast Guard and went into another branch of service, what would it have been and what would have been your job?
I would say I would have went into the Air Force and I would still become an electrician. I want to be an electrician at 16. So I would have went in as an aviation electrician.
Okay. All right. Second question. What is the hardest life lesson you ever learned in your time in the service?
Leadership, because of the fact that to provide good leadership, you have to be the first one there in the morning, the last one at night, and be able to listen to your people. And that was sometimes hard for me to listen to people.
Okay. Final lightning round question. You're doing great here. What is one interesting trivia fact about Dave Gillespie that people might not know about you? A talent, a skill, something you did that maybe people wouldn't know about. The trivia question is.
I would say the one thing that I come across very strong, very confident in what I do, but I'm a softie.
Ah,
But I have mastered my trades through the Coast Guard, and I am good at what I do.
okay. All right, that was the lightning round. That was good. Let's talk about where you are in your life now. You know, one of the things we were talking about before we got on the program was it seems to be that at this stage in our life, and believe me, I can commiserate with you. I want to be a teacher and a coach at this stage in my life. You expressed to me that, you know, one of your passions and one of the reasons that you had done Virginia Technical Academy was your passion for passing on knowledge to these young people that are coming along. Let's drill down a little bit on that.
Okay.
What's your real motivation here? What gets the wheels turning for Dave Gillespie?
Actually, there is no inside or anything like that. I have just dedicated myself to teach people. And I don't have it with me right at the moment, but I enjoy doing it. That's all there is to it. There is no, I'm here 7 days a week. I just do it because I enjoy teaching. And when I see the light bulb light up, then I know I've gotten through to that student. Somebody mentored me, several people, through my career. I didn't tell you about the first time I burned down a building on my first job.
Oh, what do we need to hear about? Okay. Here we go. Let's talk about and it's interesting that you say the first time you burned down a building.
So, but it's, and this, I think Mr. Knapp was my boss at the time. And I went out on my first solo as electrician as a third class. And all I was doing was replacing the main leads coming into panel box at this place, because I noticed it had a cut in it and it was unsafe. So he said, go fix it if you could do it. I put in all the leads. I forgot to tag them 1, 2, and 3. So I ended up reversing phases. And I'm thinking I did a great job, spent half the day there, walked into the building. Somebody smelled something burning. Pulled the ceiling tiles out, every light fixture, the boiler system, all got 208 on it. And for the next 3 days with no sleep, I rewired everything. And that was a valuable lesson.
But now wait a minute. And that was the first time.
Okay, I've made a few mistakes here and there. We ain't gonna talk all of them in one story.
But that's one where you learned your best life lessons, right? When life gives you failures, when you really grow, right?
And that is when you grow. And that's what, but you know, the biggest thing about that is my boss. And that's when I say sometimes listening is my boss says, okay, did you learn anything? I said, yep. And for 3 days, I didn't sleep until I rewired the facility back up where everything had burned up. And that was it. In the discussion, he didn't come down, he didn't holler, he didn't start throwing things and saying, what the heck do you think you're doing here? And that's where my learning started, that you can make mistakes. It's the leaders and the leadership. When you make those mistakes, how did they respond and how does it get reacted?
Mhm.
And that's what I'm trying to instill now into the school.
Sounds to me like Mr. Knapp was a pretty good,
As a
role
young
model.
person, I was only 18, 19 years old. He actually set my course to where I was going. And he was a warrant officer at the time.
Do you think you got some characteristics or disciplines baked into you in the Coast Guard that, really shaped your life?
Yes, all my characteristics came from the Coast Guard. Everything that I do now, the drive I have to be here in the morning, the drive to do the job, no matter what everybody's telling me around me that, oh, you're just kissing ass because you're trying to move up the chain. It was the drive just to say you're doing the job that you were told to do, the disciplines that you learned in the military to do that. And that's the reason I wrote on the veteran spotlight was one of the issues that on hiring a military, and I'll like to read this, is the when you hire a vet, you're bringing the leadership experience necessary to success for your company through existence, training, education. Military personnel learn the concepts of leadership from day one. The first learn to effectively accept directions from other leaders, and many go to take that leadership role themselves. Military leaders have experience managing their emotions in high pressure situations. They're experienced, they're motivated, and they're delegators. The military is better at producing leaders in the private corporations. So that's what I've learned in my military career, is being that person.
You summed it up so well. I mean, one of the things that we talk a lot about this in our circles as people are transitioning and come out of the military, and they have all of these skills, but they don't necessarily translate directly into the job market. But the disciplines, the leadership experience, the personal accountability, the heightened sense of ethics, the ability to communicate, the being part of a team, right? The team is always better than, an
The individual.
uncoordinated group of individuals, right? The things that we can accomplish.
100% on agreeing with you with that.
So, Dave, I told you 30 minutes would go by like that. Would you believe we're there? You've got some fascinating stories. Is there, I have one closing question for you. Is there one individual in the 20 plus years of service, that you met that just kind of stands out in your memory? In your time, is there somebody, a story or somebody that you'd like to recognize?
I could give you several, but I'll tell you the one that Charlie Marino, he's the one that called me to go back in the Coast Guard.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually instilled some of those leadership qualities into me and pulled them out of me even farther. Because the fact, when we was on the ship, we had more casualties on the ship. I could tell you stories from here till next year. Every time a casualty happened, I zoomed down to the engine room. So finally, because I was teaching my electricians because they just didn't have that same hands-on. Charlie Marino finally started looking at me and he said, Dave, and grabbed me by the collar, Chief, come over here. They're working it now. They're doing it. Learn your patience and step back. So I would say what I have learned in my patience and that listening to people and then looking at your people and supporting them, the good, the bad, and different, and being honest with them up front is what he instilled in me. He made me a better leader than I was before I went back in the Coast Guard. So
That's a great
what I would
story.
say. Charlie Marino. and his sons are in the Coast Guard also. So it's a family tradition with him.
I bet there are a lot of stories to share, and it's fascinating. I want to hear more of them, but we're out of time. We've been listening to Dave Gillespie. He is in Newport News, Virginia. He's the head of Virginia Technical Academy down there, retired after more than 20 years in the United States Coast Guard, and now given back by training young people in a lot of technical skills. One last point, how do people get in touch with Virginia Technical Academy, and what have you got, planned for 2021?
We have planned for 2021 is to expand our schools. We're in a 20,000 square foot building now. I'm wanting to get into the new technologies to start teaching wind generators. We want to get into solar powers. We are looking at doing automotive. I got another coastie that may retire and coming into the automotive and teach for me. I do have Army here. I do have Air Force here. I do have veterans working on my staff now. And I think that's the reason we have such a good collaboration on doing things. So we're looking to go from 20,000 square feet to 60,000 square feet in another year or so to bring in all the new technologies and put more hands-on training. How to get a hold of me? I'm gonna give you my cell number because I never can remember the office number. And people can call me directly. I answer up to 65 phone calls on troubleshooting once the students graduate to build their confidence when they're in the field on a daily basis. So and that's throughout the whole week. My phone number gets put on all the boards. I teach all the classes, HVAC, electrical. I teach in some of the plumbing. I do the OSHA training, and I also do the appliance.
We'll put that and links to the company website on our show notes so that everybody doesn't have to write it down. We'll make sure that we get it out there. Thanks so much for being on the program today. Everybody, you've been listening to the Spotlight on the VeteranCrowd Network. We air on Tactical Tuesdays and Red Fridays. And so, want you to listen to our podcast. We're bringing veterans like Dave Gillespie and others that are making a difference in our community into your living rooms and into your automobiles every week. Great to have you, Dave. Thanks to you. A little Army shout out here. Bravo Zulu to you. And that's a wrap.
Thank you for listening to Spotlight by VeteranCrowd. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and uploads, please visit our website at VeteranCrowdNetwork.com. We'll see you next time.